I saw on the news earlier that this summer, 2026, in the UK is set to be the hottest summer since records began. That's something like 150 years. It's the second time that this has occurred. Last summer, 2025, was actually the hottest on record for 150 years since records began, and this year is set already to top the record set last year. Global warming, maybe. What is interesting is I heard an interesting statistic, and that was that in the 20th century there was only one summer in the UK where the thermometer topped 35 degrees centigrade, and that was 1976. Only one summer in the entire century. In the 21st century, we are now 26 years into that century, we've already had 5 summers where the temperatures have on certain days topped our record. So, I never thought I'd say this, but bring on the snow and the rain and the atrocious British weather. Bring back the weather we're used to. Welcome to the Tainted Tavern. My wife came back from the local jumble sale the other day, and she brought a load of things. She picks up things at random, and she brought up several books for me to take a look of, and one of them was this, Mystery in White, A Christmas Crime Story by Jefferson Farjeon. This is a reissue of a novel that was first published back in 1937 in the interwar years, so this book is very much a part of what is known as the golden age of crime fiction. And this is a reissue which was published in, I think, 2014 by the British Library, Crime Classics. So I figured, as perverse as always, that in this record-breaking temperatures, I'd bring my temperature down by engrossing myself in a story set in a snowy landscape. So we're going to talk about this book today as part of the Tainted Tavern Book Club. We're going to partake in a pipe, smoking an Hardcastle, and we're going to pour ourselves a beer. And today we are drinking John Smith Smooth, extra smooth. Used to be known as John Smith's Yorkshire Bitter back in the day. There's a widget in this can, so you don't have to take time pouring it. In fact, you just give it a fierce pour. Chuck it all in your glass. Very similar to pouring a can of Guinness draft. This stuff, now if you go to various beer review channels on YouTube, people tend to slag this off and they say it's not what it used to be. Undoubtedly it's not what it used to be. Nothing is what it used to be. But as a old style, British style beer, a bitter, it's not, I think it's about, just looking for the ABV on here. Yeah, so it's 3.4 ABV. And it's an old style, British style bitter beer. I quite enjoy it. And you do get a nice smooth pour thanks to the widget in the can. And I am smoking some Condor pipe tobacco, the mighty Condor, in this old Hardcastle Briar, which is an absolutely fantastic smoker. I got this as an estate pipe a while back and cleaned it up myself. So let's talk about Mystery in White, A Christmas Crime Story by Jefferson Farjeon. Now, full transparency, I'd never heard of this author, and I probably never would have picked this book up because, as I say, I had no knowledge of the writer. But my wife brought it home, and it appealed to me largely because I like the cover art on this, and the fact that it's British Library Crime Classics. I've read a couple of the books that have been issued in the British Library Crime Classics. And I've enjoyed them all, so I thought I'd pick it up, and I did. I read it over 2 sit-ins. I sat down the night before last and read most of the book, and then last night I was out the back garden in the beer garden. It was so warm, and I was sat out there with a pipe, and I read through till about 1:30 this morning and finished the book. Now, as I say, I knew nothing at all about J. Jefferson Farjeon. I've made a couple of little notes here, but these notes are very limited. So he was born in 1883 and died in 1955. So Mystery in White was published in 1937, as I've said, so that's during the interwar years. So it makes it very much part of the golden age of crime, when writers such as Agatha Christie and Dorothy L. Sayers were at their full strength. And Dorothy L. Sayers, incidentally, was a big admirer of J. Jefferson Farjeon. The introduction through this book, as are, I believe, all of the introductions in the British Library Crime Classics collection, is written by Martin Edwards. Martin Edwards, of course, he's a luminary in the British crime fiction field, as well as being a pretty good novelist himself. He's written a heck of a lot of non-fiction about the genre. And he tells us in his introduction that Mystery in White is an entertaining story of a crime at Christmas, written by an author who, although little known today, was a major figure during the golden age of murder between the two world wars. None less an authority than Dorothy L. Sayers pronounced that Jefferson Farjeon is quite unsurpassed for creepy skill in mysterious adventure, and the storyline of Mystery in White allows him ample scope to demonstrate that skill. Now, when you start reading this, basically, let's do the plot in a couple of minutes. Okay, so the plot, basically, a few people on a train. They head into their destination, but the train gets stuck in a heavy snowfall, blizzards, and the train can't go any further. So a group of people then leave the train, figuring that they'll walk to the station, but in the end they've realised that in this snow, in the conditions, this is going to be next to impossible, and they stumble upon an old house. The house, they've knocked the door, there's no one in, but the door is unlocked, so they go in, and the fire is set, and also tea is being prepared on the table, and yet there's no one in, so there's the central mystery. What I liked about this book was, it starts off, and you start reading and you think you're going to have something along the lines of Agatha Christie type, kind of a locked room mystery in a sense, even though it's not a locked room as such, but it's this remote house, they stranded there, there's no outside help available, so they've got no option but to sit there and wait out the storm. Then we learn that there's been a murder actually on the train, not in the house itself. Although we are asked the question, what happened to the occupants of the house? They must have been there shortly before these people arrived at the house, because, as I say, the fire was lit and the tea table was set. So what happened to them? The main character is a psychic investigator called Edward Matby, and he's an elderly man, and he's quite he's pretty much an offbeat type character. Yeah, the John Smith is very smooth, very just a basic bitter taste, so you're getting a bit of oats, a bit of malt maybe, a biscuity type taste. So the main characters, as I say, are Edward Matby. There's a brother and sister team who were also stranded on the train, and that is David and Lydia. There's another lady who sprains her ankle and she has to be helped to the house. And for the biggest part of the book, she's bedbound, and she is Jessie. There's a character who, initially in the book, he's just described simply, he's an elderly man, and he's one of these type of know-all type characters who exaggerates about his own importance and seems to be full of his own self-importance. And he's initially referred to as the Beau, but later on we find out his name is Hopkins, and he's actually a far more noble character than when we first see him, and he does have an arc which runs through the entire book. The characters in this book are really good, and what I enjoyed about it, because, as I say, this was written and published in 1937, So, and it's a contemporary novel of its time. So the way that the characters speak, the way they act, their thought processes are all fit in to the era in which they were created, and it's almost like a snapshot, because it is a really well written novel and the atmosphere is superb. And I've got to get my lighter because I've run out of matches and I'm talking too much on the... So yeah, the atmosphere is absolutely superb with this book. Even though we're in the mid-30s outside when I'm reading this, you can feel that icy chill of the snow. It's a really, really well written book. And immediately upon finishing this book, I went on Amazon and looked for some other books by the author. And I purchased for my Kindle Jefferson Farjeon, the classic collection of Jefferson Farjeon, which is 19 books. I don't know what the edition is like, but it was so cheap, I thought I'd take a punt on her. And this contains the entire series of novels that he did about a character called Ben the Tramp, which were really popular back in the day. Again, a character that I'd never heard of, as we established at the beginning of this review. Mr. Farjeon has largely been forgotten in the modern age, which is a pity because this is a fantastic book. As I say, you start reading and you think you're having something like the Agatha Christie type locked room mystery, you know, only with the locked room becoming this remote house where they're stranded. You think that it's something like Murder on the Orient Express or something along those lines. But then the author completely pulls the rug out from underneath you. And there's a kind of supernatural element running through this story. I won't call it a supernatural story per se, but there is a supernatural element running through the story. And as the mystery is deepening, we start into thinking, oh mind, could there be a supernatural solution for this? Thankfully, the author doesn't go full out supernatural, but he reins it back, and it's very effective in the way he does mingle this supernatural idea within the core of the mystery novel. For instance, when the characters first arrive at the remote house, Matby, the psychic guy, goes looking around, as does David, and one of them come across a locked room. At the attic room at the top of the stairs is locked, and they try the door, but then they hear movement inside, and then that movement dies away. It's just a brief sound of movement, then it's gone. They come back downstairs. Later on, when they go back up, the door is no longer locked, and they open the door, but the window is open slightly, which suggests there was someone in there, and they may have escaped out of the window. Now, getting out of the attic window would not have been too difficult because of the massive snow drifts, so they could jump basically from the window. When I'd read the final denouncement, I think I'd figured out pretty much what was going on and how it was going to end, but there were a couple of little twists at the end that I didn't suspect. So overall, I think Mystery in White is a fantastic book. I really enjoyed this, and the author does deserve to be better remembered, and hopefully editions like this, such as this from the British Library of Crime Classics, will bring back authors that have, long been forgotten. As I say, Mr. Farjeon was a very prolific writer back in the day, and he wrote more than 80 novels. He's perhaps best known for writing the screenplay 17, was it? What was it? I have to check that. See, this is where my knowledge of this author is. So he's best known for writing the screenplay number 17, which was turned into a movie by Alfred Hitchcock early in Hitchcock's career, but it wasn't a massive hit, and it's not one of Hitchcock's best known movies. So that's Mystery in White, a chilly, creepy crime story set at Christmas and read in the middle of a massive heatwave. Thanks for watching. Please do the usual. Thumbs up, comment down below, and please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and please share the shit out of this video.
Please come back soon.